Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you? So,
Oh, wow.
so
How
first
are
of all,
you
I want
doing?
to apologize for being late today. Have you ever had one of those days where everything, like you try to rush and it just makes you more slow and like you get more nervous as you go? You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah, it happens to me all the time, especially when I'm doing events. So I completely understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you ready for this?
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
let's do this.
Are you nervous? Are you excited?
No, I mean I'm just gonna go with the flow. Just it is what it is. This is life.
Okay, so first, before we kind of get into it, I want to introduce Nay. Nay is the founder of Zooming Moms. And for the friends of mine who have been recently invited to Zooming Moms by me, you're probably wondering what that's about, why I invited you. So one of the benefits that I've had of becoming a mama mate for Zooming Moms is just learning all of this tech stuff. You guys have helped me quite a bit already just with Canva. You were helping me, last week to learn some editing, different things like that. So what I wanted to do first of all, and by the way, we have our matching shirts. Do you have hers is
Yes.
white, mine is black. I just got mine recently. This was part of my pamper package. So that's one of the benefits that you get from Zooming Moms is that you get a pamper package. What is it, 3 or 4 times a year?
4 times a year. It's quarterly, so I give them out every 3 months.
Okay, and why don't you tell everyone else, what are some of the other benefits that you get of actually becoming a mama mate, beyond uh, the techie stuff like you've been teaching me?
Yes, no problem. So I like to highlight the crew part. I feel like that's the most important part. You gain your own crew of people to be your accountability person. So whomever you decide to join with, it's a cohort of people. So those people that you join in with become your cohort of people. So now you have your own crew who can help you be accountable for the things that you want to do. So they help you with your goals, short term or long term. We work together for 12 weeks straight, but then after those 12 weeks, you have that crew of people to be with you for the rest of your life. So I think that's the top thing with that's good about being in the membership is that you have that crew of accountability people. I feel like a lot of times in life, we always need somebody else to push us, to inspire us, motivate us to keep going. We have dreams and we have these visions that we want to do, but we get discouraged because all the things that we're going through in life and we just don't have that energy anymore. But when you have somebody that's checking in on you, being genuine, supporting you, no judgment, you find that energy again to get back out there in the world, get out of that dark place, get out of that comfort zone. So to me, that's the top thing is that crew. You will gain a crew when you join. Then, like you said, the pamper packages. Who doesn't want a care package to come sporadically to their house? Again, you might be in a dark place, you might be discouraged, depressed, and then voila, you get this nice care package in the mail just for you. And when you're a mom, a lot of times we don't think about those things. We just think about buying stuff for the kids, buying stuff for our spouses, buying stuff for family members, but we don't cater to ourselves a lot. So that care package is there for you to take a moment and just embrace life for yourself. And then
Absolutely.
also, you also already mentioned the technology, the different tools. I'm helping you guys with the technology part, but also creativity. So I'm going to help you learn how to create ads, learn how to edit videos. We're going to go and do different arts and crafts activities. But overall, I'm creating social events for everybody to get together and have a good time. I'm taking all my talents and I'm sharing them with you. And then I want you to take your talents and share them with us. And we're supporting each other. And I want to back up about the package. The packages are also to help mompreneurs. So if you're a mompreneur and you sell products, enter your product and so it can be featured in one of those boxes. If it's in the budget and you sell earrings or glasses, then maybe each member will get earrings or glasses that quarterly month. And you are also making a profit because we purchased from you before we went to the big agencies, the big companies and bought our products. So overall, being a member is to help you step outside of that box, help you feel energized and want to live again. We all get distracted. So it's giving you a purpose, giving you something to look forward to. And like I said, it's the connections, those lifelong connections where you meet new people from different walks of life. I'm over here in Massachusetts on the whole other side of the world compared to you. You're in California, and we are connecting and learning about each other.
And that is one of the things that I really love about it, is the meeting of the new people and really getting to know them too, because there have been a few that I've gotten to know, you, Rosie, and Miss Nira a little bit, but not too much, but mostly you and Miss Rosie. So yeah, I'm very grateful to you guys, just so you know.
And I'm grateful to have you. Thank you for joining in.
Well, thank you for doing this with me. So this one was a long one, let me tell you. When I said, hey, let me look into this, I didn't know it was going to end up being an 11-page presentation. But if you just bear with me, there are some pages that are going to go faster than others because the explanation was really quick for them. What we're going to do,
is that a good thing or a bad thing for it to be long? Like, is my life story this difficult, this complex?
Yeah, well, it was very complex, and trying to condense it down into this one video, in this one reading, you're gonna see that there are like highlights at certain ages of what you already told me had been going on in your life, but then probably I think I may have picked up on a couple of other things that may have happened. You'll have to let me know at the end of the reading. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with your natal chart. I'm going to explain a couple of aspects about that, but it's in no way going to be a complete natal chart reading by any means, because like I say, I'm trying to condense 11 different, actually it was 13 different charts that I read to do this reading. So that's for those astrologers out here that are watching that, they're like, damn. So anyway, it ended up being 11 pages total that I'm putting into this presentation overall. But so once I get into explaining, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen. You're going to see my presentation. I didn't actually go in and type everything in Canva this time because, by the time I wrote out all the notes all over the pages, I just was tired and I just wanted to, I took pictures, but it doesn't look too bad. Hopefully you guys are okay and you can still read what I wrote. My handwriting isn't too bad, but I do ask that, once I get started, because of the way that Zoom is and in editing, please try not to interrupt. When I get to the end, you can ask any questions you want. Also, if you have a pen and a paper and you want to take notes about where you want to ask questions or comment on something, like maybe there's something I pick up on and you're like, oh, I need to point that out to her that she got that right, or whatever the case may be, go ahead. But yeah, so let me share screen. And then, oh, I forgot to explain. So I'm going to share screen. We're going to go to your natal chart. Then we're going to look at, and this part that I'm explaining is for the astrology students that are watching. So we're going to go from the natal chart to the chart that looks at some secondary progressions. And in particular, what I'm looking at in this chart happen to be the stations. I'm looking to see whether planets station retrograde or direct. And now, I know most astrologers would traditionally only use the main planets. However, I like to use the asteroids as well. It's just how I read charts. I taught myself, it's just how I do it. And so that's part of the reason that there are so many charts that I read, because you actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stations throughout your life. And now stations in astrology or in a secondary progression, these are important because these are going to mark major milestones in your life. These are going to be, turning points where something happens in your life that is going to really affect you in some way. Now, when I say major milestones, that's going to apply to the planets more so than the asteroids, and I will point that out as I'm going along. The asteroids are going to be more like minor things, but they will have an impact on your life going forward. It's just not something that's going to be detrimental or huge, right? So again, we start at the natal chart, then we're going to look at the chart that tells you all of the different ages that you should have had these different milestones in your life. And then what I did was I some solar return charts for each of those ages. And I looked at what was happening for you each year that year, and it was just kind of uncanny to me. And I say this because of all the astrologers out there who are saying, oh, you should only look at the planets when you do this. Some of those asteroids that they don't necessarily look at when it comes to the stations just happen to coincide with, actually one of them coincided with your asthma diagnosis, which again, uncanny, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And then as we get further along, and we get to what is going to be going into your future, because I actually go to the stations that you haven't had yet. You have one coming up at the age of 38, one coming up at the age of 40, another one at the age of 55. And then if you live long enough, two more at the age of 73 and one at 88. So I didn't go so far as to look at 73 and 88, but I did go all the way to 55. So let's look at it. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. It gives me hope.
All right. And then the other thing that I want to say before I share screen, remember when I gave you the pre-reading? And for those who know me, who've had readings from me before, you know what I'm talking about when I say a pre-reading. For those who don't know me and never had a reading from me before, you know, this is one of the reasons that I like to go in blind when I do a reading, because sometimes, you know, in a pre-reading, things will come out. And this is what happened with Nay. She gave me her birthday information. I started to draw up her natal chart, and I was listening to music in the background, and then boom, 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 all of these songs were just like corresponding to what I was seeing in her chart. And so I just wrote it all down, sent it to her. She did tell me that she read through some of it, and yes, some of it did correspond. She hasn't told me whether or not she finished all of it yet, but I'm only bringing up the pre-reading because I had talked to you a little bit, Nay, about the pre-reading and with the songs that came through and everything, and how I was like, well, you know, this may apply, this may not apply. That happened again in this reading. There were a couple of years where we had different songs that came through. So again, where I say that you may want to have a journal or piece of paper and pen ready so that you can write down the names and artists, so that you can look up the lyrics and see how does that apply to that particular year of your life, or if it even does. And then you can let me know later on, because it'll take you a while to look that up. Obviously, you won't have that information right now unless you know the song. Okay. So now I'm going to hit share screen, and I'm going to try not to talk too quickly, but you know, I am who I am. I can't help myself sometimes. And plus you'll have a recording of it later that will, where am I? I need my Canva. You'll have a recording of it later that you can go back and watch as many times as you need to. All right. So can you see my screen with my funky handwriting here?
Yes.
All right. So this here is your natal chart. All right, so anytime that I look at a natal chart, the first thing that I like to do is I always look at the ascendant. Can you see my blue dot here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is your ascendant, this black arrow that's pointing to Mercury in Sagittarius. That just happens to be the decan of Sagittarius that your ascendant is in, which means you are early Sagittarius rising. So I look at the ascendant first, and then I like to look at the sun and then the moon. But when I'm looking at your chart, I notice a couple of things right away. Number one, you have Lilith in conjunction to your ascendant. So that means you are Lilith rising, which is actually very important. It's something that did come up in the pre-reading that we spoke about with your moon Pluto conjunction previously that we'll get to in a minute. But before I get to that, I want you to see you have your sun here in Libra, and then you have your moon in Scorpio, and then you have your ascendant in Sagittarius. So the reason that that is important to me is because astrologers like to look at the zodiac in terms of, you know, maturity, right? Where Aries would be the baby, because Aries represents springtime, newness, everything is fresh. That means if you travel around the zodiac and the zodiac goes this way, it progresses, you know, through the signs counterclockwise. That means by the time you get to Pisces down here, you've made it to the end of winter. Things, you know, this is the elder. And so when you come over here, this means your sun, when you were born, your sun isn't, or your soul is incarnating as a middle-aged soul in terms of spiritual maturity, but your moon is just a little bit more mature than that. And remember, we spoke about your moon Pluto conjunction and how difficult that conjunction can be, because your moon is your emotions, and Pluto can be very obsessive. Pluto can be, you know, very detail oriented. Pluto can, you know, be very tragic, deep, dark things that happen in your life. It is not an easy aspect to have Pluto in conjunction to your moon, and especially not in Scorpio, because Pluto rules Scorpio. And so, excuse me, Pluto is Scorpio's traditional ruler. So the moon in Scorpio is not happy anyway, only because Scorpio is one of those signs that, you know, okay, let's look at it this way. If you look at it in terms of maturity, by the time Aries gets all the way over here to Libra, you know, your soul has seen some things, right? Your soul has seen some things. And this is the reason that Aries, or excuse me, that Libra is the sign of the zodiac that's kind of known as the peacemaker, the one who's trying to make everybody comfortable, the one who thinks that the world should be fair. This is the justice fighter. And so the reason for that is because they've seen some things and they kind of understand it from both sides. They've had a little bit of experience by the time Aries matures to this level here. But by the time you get to Scorpio, this is where the things that you've seen have taken a toll. And now you've got your moon in Scorpio, and that toll that it's taken is hitting you hard in your emotions. And so you probably have a lot of times where you have depressive episodes, right? And these are probably very well-deserved depressive episodes, meaning that, you know, these are probably attached to very difficult situations. And you know, just because of the moon and the way that everything is sitting, and we're going to get to it when we get to the first station that happens in your life, which happens right around 5 months of age. But I think some of this difficulty that happens comes in for you around your mother and mother figures in your life. But also there's an issue about separation from your father as well in your life, which again, we'll get to in further charts. But, you know, having this moon Pluto conjunction, this is very difficult. This, in my opinion, makes you a Plutonian because the Pluto is in conjunction with one of your luminaries, and it is in the same house as your other luminary. So where the sun is your soul, the moon is your heart. These are your emotions. This is also your intuition, your femininity, your, you know, your fear, your shadow, your dreams, your hopes. And then you have your ascendant over here. So where your soul is going, man, I've seen some shit. Your heart's like, you know, I really need to take a break. It's like when I look at this moon Pluto conjunction coming directly after your sun, it kind of reminds me of that Winona Ryder meme. It's like a still shot of her from one of those movies where she looks like she's just come through an explosion. Her hair is shot back. She's got soot all over her face and she's smoking a cigarette, right? That's what this moon Pluto conjunction looks like and feels like to me, coming right after your sun, where it's like your heart is going, dude, I just want to I want to rest. I need to heal. I need to analyze this. I need to like take a good deep dark look at this so that I can not only heal myself, but I want to heal others, because you want to nurture other people as well. This is part of your heart, part of your soul, part of your Libra, wanting to make everybody happy and comfortable and understanding it from both sides, right? But then you get to your rising sign, and this is where I kind of crack up, because I don't think you realize that you're Plutonian. Well, at least you didn't until our last conversation, right? I don't think you realize this power that you have where your emotions just envelop you. And I don't think you realize how much they envelop you, and it hits you in your first house here with this Lilith in Sagittarius, because you get so deeply overwhelmed with the depressive side, but your rising sign is like, fuck that. Let's go on an adventure. If we're going to heal, we're going to go travel to, I don't know, Cancun, and I'm going to heal by pampering myself, and I'm going to, you know, whatever. But another aspect of this, with this Lilith in conjunction to your rising sign, is that whatever you're feeling emotionally, even if your ascendant is saying, let's push through this, right? Let's push through this and find some way so that we don't get sunk down into our depression, because I think you've said before, if you stop moving, you're afraid you'll stop moving for good, right? I think that's something that always sits in your mind. You don't want to stop moving. And so I think that's where this Sagittarius rising comes in, where you're like, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to go on an adventure instead. But then the way that you're feeling, you don't realize that it's affecting everyone around you. And another thing that I think you don't realize is that when you're pushing through and going on these adventures, you're kind of dragging everyone else along with you. It may not be everyone in your immediate environment, but it might be like your husband, right? Like if you have some new creative task or some new idea of something that you want to learn, does he always kind of become your partner in it in some way, like whether he wants to or not? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And so like, yeah. And so, you know what I mean? And I think this is an aspect of your soul, and maturing to the point where your heart is like, God, I gotta figure this out, because I can't sit in this space. And, you know, because I can't sit in this space, I gotta go. So that's something that you're going to have to be wary of and pay attention to moving forward, right? Because if you're not really aware of how your mood can affect the people around you, and I call this the I'm not mad, you're mad aspect. And by the way, I have this in my own chart too. And it took me a long time to really understand this, because I always think that I'm hiding the way that I feel because I don't say anything, but I have resting bitch face. And I am Plutonian as well, right? Like I have a Pluto sun aspect. So my luminaries are attached to Pluto as well. So if I'm in a good mood, everyone around me is in a good mood. If I'm in a bad mood, everyone around me is in a bad mood. And it's because for some reason I intimidate people, and I don't know why. I don't mean to. I don't want to influence people. I don't want to have that Plutonian power, which is what happens when Pluto comes into play. Pluto is power. Pluto is control. Pluto can manipulate. And that means you have the ability to manipulate emotions, not just yours and not just your families, but also your friends. And I say that because Pluto is in your 11th house of your social circle, your friends, the people that you work with, the people that you interact with on social media and with Zooming moms. And so I also think because you have both the sun and the moon in this house with Pluto sitting between them, you really want to come across as happy, cheerful, bright, and you do. But if you're upset, everybody knows it and everybody feels it. And then everybody's afraid to sort of reach out to you, even if they want to comfort you, because they don't know how. You know, they're a little bit worried that you might sting, because that Pluto Scorpion stinger, you know, you can't help it. You're not trying. You think you're hiding it, but it's there anyway, right? And it's simply because you need to heal. That's all it is. You need to heal. And so a couple other things that I want to point out. Something we talked about before, which was your 8th house, your South Node in the 8th house. That was something that came through with the songs and the numbers. I think 8 was a number that was really prominent for you, and the number 2 and 5 as well, which came through even more with these stations, by the way, which you'll see in just a second. But anyway, having Sagittarius ascendant means that your chart is ruled by Jupiter, because Jupiter is the planet that rules, it's Sagittarius's planet. I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words right now. Anyway, so that means Jupiter rules your chart. So this particular aspect in the 8th house that we talked about, where I said, whatever you inherited from your family, be it traditions, ways of like doing things, or a belief system that you have, right? Like that's sort of where you're comfortable. You've mastered that. You've got this expertise from that. But it's also kind of a big thing in your life where you have this faith in this like higher power that you always sort of fall back on, right? And so even though I think, because if you see all of this energy up here, particularly right here with Astrea, the vertex, and Chiron. So Astrea is about balance. The vertex is about like sudden, unexpected things that come in to kind of like throw your plans out of whack. And then Chiron is healing, right? This is all sitting in opposition to this stellium you have in Capricorn, which is, you know, Capricorn is like the hard worker of the zodiac. And yours, because I'm using Placidus house system and not whole sign house system, your Capricorn energy is straddling two houses, the first house and the second house. So there's something about your personality that's going to be unusual, and as well as your appearance, which we'll get to in a minute because of the vitiligo. But, you know, beyond that, your personality itself, the way that you interact with the world, is going to be different and unusual and outside of the box anyway. Just the fact that you are creating Zooming Moms is something different and unusual and outside of the box. And it's on social media, which is ruled by Uranus. So that this right here completely fits in with all of this energy and the opposition that's here. But I think that one of the things that is happening with this is that you learned all of these like traditions and belief systems and things, and you keep falling back on them. But what you really truly want is to build your own. I think what you really truly want is to build your own wealth, your own like, and not just material wealth. It's like spiritual wealth, right? Yeah, and I see you smile. So I know I hit right on that one. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. We're going to, oh, and one other thing that I want to say, I think I might have mentioned it a little bit, but having the sun and the moon in the 11th house, to people in your social circle, you might be seen a little bit as a dichotomy, like having a little bit of a dual-sided nature. 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute you're sad, 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute you're sad. And that could be one of the reasons that you've had difficulties with friendships in the past. So now I'm going to take a drink, and then we're going to go to the chart that shows the stations that are turning points in your life. So the very first one that happens to you somewhere around the age of 5 months. So when you're looking at secondary progressions, and this again is for all of the astrology nerds out there, when you're looking at secondary progressions and the station of a planet, that means that there's going to be a pre-shadow and post-shadow period for the energy of that planet to hit the person whose chart you're reading. So for you, Nay, obviously, if you're only 5 months old, there's not going to be a whole, you know, long-term like pre-shadow period, because you've only been alive for 5 months by this point. But then you do have a post-shadow period. So I want you to start thinking in terms of like for the 5 months, think a cup, you know, somewhere within the first year of life. And then the next time you have something important that happens is going to be at age 10. So with that, we're going to give you about a 3-year leeway, either as early as age 7 or as late as age 13. And then we're going to do the same thing with age 18. So we're going to say as early as 15 and as late as 21. And then from there, we're going to go to age 38, which is the one that's upcoming. So you won't know yet on what happened around that time or what's going to happen. This will be one that's upcoming, and then age 40 and age 55. And again, I already spoke about 73 and 88. If you live long enough, you'll have 2 more turning points in your life. So let's look at the first one, which is somewhere around age 5 months. This is where I think something happens where either you move or your parents split up, okay, so here's really what I think happens, okay? I think your parents split up, and whoever the mother figure, and when I say mother figure, now keep in mind, you can have your father represent and take on the role of a mother figure because your father is more nurturing, and your mother can take on the role of the disciplinarian, as happened in my house. So when I say mother figure, just keep that in mind. So whoever the mother figure was in your life more than likely had some relative that was able to take you guys in. I think you guys probably moved in with whoever this relative was, and this was in opposition either to what your dad wanted. Maybe it was far away from where your dad lived. Whatever this was, I think this was a huge turning point for you. So when I say like immediately in your life, I think there was this separation from dad that caused a problem. I also think whoever this a person was that took on this authority figure type of energy in your life, they might have been a little bit harsh because you have Saturn over here. And so like they might have been very strict. And I think that might be the reason that you have that desire to create your own tradition. So This one is going to be, and by the way, for the astrology nerds, one of the other reasons that I say a move is because we have Earth in the 4th house down here. Anytime you have Earth in a chart, at least in my opinion, this is going to talk about a manifestation. And so whatever this energy is that's going on in the chart, it's going to manifest in the 4th house, which is the house that rules your home, your security, your family, your childhood, that type of thing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to age 10. And this is the one that was just uncanny to me because you said that you thought that you were probably diagnosed with asthma sometime in the 90s. So you would have been 10 years old when this is Hygeia, okay? This is just so interesting. So again, for astrology nerds, Hygeia is an asteroid that talks about hygiene, but hygiene in terms of how well do you take care of yourself, right? Do you go to the doctor? Do you go to the dentist? Do you take a shower regularly? Do you clean the house? Do you brush your teeth? Do you wash your hands? That, you know, that type of thing. So asthma is an allergy. And it's an allergy that affects the lungs and the throat. And something that's very interesting to me about this particular solar return chart happens to be these placements here. You have Jupiter in Gemini. Gemini in medical astrology happens to be the sign that rules the lungs. And then you have Saturn. And by the way, Jupiter makes things bigger, so it expands, right? So you want your lungs to expand, but Jupiter is in opposition to all of this energy over here, which happens to be Astrea, Chiron, and Hygeia. Astrea is the asteroid that talks about balance. So if you can't expand your lungs, that means things are imbalanced, which is the reason there's that opposition. And opposition is a tug of war. You know, I'm struggling. It's a tug of war. So you can't breathe. So you're imbalanced. You can't expand your lungs. Chiron is where you need to heal. And by the way, all of this is in your 1st house. So this is talking about you personally, your body, your appearance, your health, everything. So you need to heal your body. Obviously, it's your lungs because it's in opposition to Jupiter in Gemini again. And then you have Hygeia. These are the doctor's appointments and the actual diagnosis. But what's even more uncanny to me is having Saturn in the 6th house in Taurus. Taurus rules the lungs in medical astrology. Saturn restricts. Asthma restricts the lungs, and the 6th house in medical astrology just happens to be the illness. You know, this is the house that is all about your health, how you take care of yourself each day, right? How do you serve others each day? If you work, what kind of work that you do sometimes will come up in the 6th house. But another interesting thing that I want to point out about this is like up here with Mars in the 9th house, you probably really wanted to like be able to go outside and play with your friends, and you're having a really hard time being able to go outside and play with your friends. And the way that it's creating this like quincunx aspect over here, I call this like, this is the irritation aspect, like having that itch that you can't scratch. But even if you do get to where you can scratch it, it just makes it even more irritated. So and then you like need to scratch it even more, right? So not being able to go outside, right, with your friends because Mars is in conjunction to the midheaven, but it's still in your head. It's not actually in the 10th house, which is where you get to go outside with your friends, right? Or where you get to do stuff in the public if you're a kid. So anyway, to me, I just thought that was really interesting thing to point out. You could tell me if I'm right or wrong. Now we're going to move to age 18. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned that age 5 was when Mars stations direct for the astrology nerds, and age 10 is when Hygeia stations direct. Mars would have been a major turning point in your life, that move. And then the asthma diagnosis would have been a minor turning point in your life that, you know, it's not going to kill you basically, unless you don't get treatment for it. But, you know, you can live with it, but it's still something that you have to manage. So now we're moving on to age 18. And this is where I think that it is a major turning point in your life. Although, again, you know, from what I've learned in studying, I don't know if other astrologers would look at the nodes stationing and Chiron stationing as a major turning point. You can tell me, Nay, whether or not this really was. So for me, this is somewhere around age 18, and I apologize for that. Someone was just trying to call me. So somewhere around age 18, this could be as early as age 15 or as late as age 21. But I think what happens here is that you go to college. And this is where the first song comes through. You have the song Someday by Nickelback that was playing in the background. So the reason that I think that you go to college here is there's a number of things, okay? So number one, we have this trine that's happening between your 7th, 11th, and 3rd houses. And down here in the 3rd houses, if you look at my notes, you'll see that I say you head off to follow your purpose, to find healing and your dreams. And then this is sitting trine to Chiron and Hygeia in your 7th house, which is where you find some very fierce friends. Like, I think this, you like come up, I think this is where you joined the sorority, right? Like somewhere around 18 to 21 is where you joined the sorority. And then you get to over here, you're meeting all kinds of new people too. So this is, again, this grand trine here. I think this is where you're in college, but you're meeting people and you're like, oh, you know, because I remember you saying before, you know, you had always wanted like a sibling, right? You're like, ooh, these, like some of these people, like these people could be my sister. These people could be like my sibling that I've wanted, that you know, peer that I wanted to like hold on to. And then boom, you have this Astrea and Venus. It's a conjunction, but it's like out of sign conjunction. And so it's like straddling the line between two signs. And the thing about it is Astrea again is like balance, right? And justice, and Venus is all about like friendship and love and things like that. But I feel like this, because it's straddling two signs, it's like imbalance. So you're like constantly questioning the friends that you have, but it's also causing you to really put up a lot of new boundaries, and you're changing who you are. Like this is where who you are personally, as also appearance, but who you are, like your personality is completely going through a huge overhaul at this point. This is where it starts. And so you're still at this point of your life, still under the influence of this particular station. You're going to be under the influence of this particular station, in my opinion, until the age of 38. This particular station was very important because, oh, and another reason that I thought that this was you going off to college is because the South Node was in conjunction to Ceres. This is where you need to leave where you're comfortable, like you need to leave home to nurture yourself, right? This is what most people do at about the age of 18, so that the node's stationing, this would totally make sense. But then again, it's all in opposition to this stuff over here. So, you know, like I think you really had to leave home to follow your dreams. So again, like I say, you're still under the influence of this particular nation, and you will be until age 38. And that's what this particular chart is here. So for the astrology nerds watching, this particular chart is not actually a solar return. This one is a secondary progression. Or no, actually, I'm wrong. I need to back it up. This is not age 38. This is actually you at age 27 when you have the vitiligo diagnosis. So what this is a solar return chart, but what I did, actually, this one is a transit chart. The next two are solar returns. No, I'm wrong. They're all transit charts for the date. What I did with this one, because you said it was the summertime that you remember going through the vitiligo diagnosis, I cast this chart for July 1st, 2017. So you would have been the age of 27. And when I'm reading all of these placements here, I feel like at this point in the diagnosis, you were more concerned about how other people were going to perceive you, mainly your husband or whoever it was that you were romantically involved with, or if you weren't romantically involved, would have been romantically involved with at this time. Because for you, I think beauty is soul deep. I think you 100% fully believe that beauty is soul deep, but you don't really trust that everybody, at least at this point in your life, you didn't trust that other people believed that. You weren't sure. And of course there are insecurities. They're like, dude, I mean, come on. Of course there are insecurities there. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm just trying to say that I think that this was the focus for you, at least at this point of the journey, right? this was the song that was playing in the background, Machine by Imagine Dragons, which I thought was interesting. And then I also think because of the way that you were feeling about how are others going to react to me, this is where you start thinking about, okay, so I remember you said something about Zooming Moms wasn't always Zooming Moms. It was something before it was Zooming Moms. And I'm wondering if this year, 2017, was the year that you actually did start that. And the reason that I say that is because all of this energy that's down here in the 5th house. So again, that'll be something that you have to let me know. Was this the year that you had the first incarnation of Zooming Moms? And then does it progress? Because here is where we have gone to diagnosis number 2. And I think diagnosis number 2 was multiple sclerosis, right? And so at this point, I think, you know, obviously you would have had to have had a bunch of testing before you actually had the diagnosis. So by the time you get to this point, there's something that's very interesting happening between, you know, with the moon. So we're almost at a full moon. Now, a full moon is important because a full moon brings a manifestation. And if at this point, which is at March 30th of 2018, if at this point in your life you had already gone through a bunch of testing, and I think before you went through that testing, you probably either had a friend or maybe a coworker or somebody who either has some experience or some sort of knowledge or something who was helping you to advocate for yourself or helping you to understand what your symptoms were so that you knew what to say to the doctor to be able to get this diagnosis or something about that. I think there was some confusion about your symptoms in the beginning, like they may have started in your extremities. And I say that because of the placements in Pisces. Pisces rules the hands and feet. And you have Astrea, Hygeia, and then Juno and Chiron and Neptune all in Pisces up here in the 9th and 10th houses. So beyond having somebody maybe either at work or a friend who is like helping you to determine like what's going on because of this confusion, as well as the doctor, I think you were also worried about, am I going to be able to work? Like what's going to happen? How am I going to, you know, take care of myself and be able to provide for my family because of these placements down here, right? And so, you know, this is like a big concern for you. And so, like I say, with this almost full moon, you get this diagnosis, but I think you kind of know at this point that this isn't the full story. There's still more to the story at this point. You're like, okay, multiple sclerosis. Yeah. Okay. I see it. I understand, but no, there's more. I think there's more. And I think we need to keep going. And so now we get to 2019, which is scleroderma, June 3rd of 2019. So by this point, oh, and I forgot to mention one other thing, which I'll mention in just a second. So by this point, I think get the full answer. And I say that because we are just past the new moon at this point. So where a full moon is a manifestation, a new moon means you've now gone on to new energy, something it's overdone with, you've started something new at this point. So once you get the scleroderma, like this is finally the end of the story. But I think, so again, if we're going to talk about like medical astrology, the 6th house is going to be the illness, the 7th house is going to be the doctor, the 8th house is going to be the treatment. Okay. And so you over here, you've got the ascendant for this particular transit chart is sitting in Virgo. Virgo is all about, it is the healer, the zodiac sign that's all about healing in the zodiac. I don't know why I said that twice, but anyway, so over here you have Lilith in Pisces. So again, scleroderma, it's happening in your hands and probably your feet too, right? And so this is where this placement, Lilith in Pisces, you've got this bad news that, yeah, this is what's going on. And the doctor is, you know, I think the doctor is either trying to tell you about like homeopathic stuff, or maybe the doctor is confusing you, or I don't know, maybe the doctor's even really hopeful about this diagnosis, right? And for me, okay, just because I happen to have Neptune in my 1st house, okay, and remember I say that the 7th house in this chart is going to represent the doctor. So if you have the 1st house in the chart, it's going to represent you. So for my personal chart, my personal natal chart, I happen to have Neptune rising, okay, which means a lot of people tend to be confused by me. when they meet me. They don't really understand me. I'm kind of a mystery to them, right? Or they see me as very naive, a little too hopeful sometimes. They don't really kind of get to know me. So if you have Neptune over here in the house that's talking about the doctor, you know, there might be something about him that's either confusing or naive, or maybe you're thinking he's naive or too hopeful, or something. Or you are taking too much hope from him, and the warning here is not to be too naive about the diagnosis and push it, because I can't help what my gut is saying when I'm looking at this, especially with the song Bones by Imagine Dragons playing in the background as I'm looking at this particular chart. And I'm like, man, if she pushes it too hard, what if she makes it worse? What if this doctor is giving her all of this hope and telling her, yeah, you'll be fine. Like, this is one of those things that can really be treated. And I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about scleroderma, right? Or what if the doctor is saying, try these homeopathic, whatever, or, you know, this stuff, and you end up overdoing it and you hurt yourself. Like, so that's just one of those things that I just want to bring up. And I'm not saying that the doctors know what they're doing. You know, I'm always listen to your doctor, always go to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. Don't just take whatever I say just because I'm saying it. Okay. But then we get to the treatment over here in the 8th house. So this is Chiron in Aries. Give me 1 second. I got to plug in my computer before it dies on me. That would be really, really bad.
I thought that was me. I was about to say, I got to plug mine. I should probably plug it in just in case though. So.
Okay, so having Chiron in Aries is important, in my opinion, because this is in the 8th house. So the 8th house is typically ruled by Scorpio, which is going to rule the area of the body that talks about like digestion. This is also going to be your reproductive organs as well. So, anything like below the waist, right? Your digestion and reproductive organs. So Aries is, again, new energy, new beginnings, and Chiron is healing. So I wonder if maybe the diet, or there's diet changes that they told you were like, maybe this was going to be the best sort of treatment for it, or maybe this was the way that you decided that you wanted to go. And I think this is absolutely the way that you should have gone because of Chiron being here, especially having Vesta sitting in the last few degrees of this particular house, because Vesta is all about like integrity and purity. So I think kind of, it's just my intuition, the way that everything is sitting. I feel like it's saying like clean eating may be something that really helps you. It might be beneficial, but again, I'm not a doctor. Ask your doctor if that's okay, if it's not something that you're doing. I also think that you are very focused. You really do want to get healthy and do whatever it takes to, take care of yourself because it's a new moon. But I think you're pulling your hubby along on the health train as well. That's what I put up there in that particular. Are you like, are you pulling him along on the health train?
Oh, you want me to answer now?
Yeah.
yeah. He's always included in my plan. So I'm trying to learn not to always include him into things. And like you said, with friends and stuff too, I gotta learn how to make my plan and my plan for life just for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that. All right. So, and then this one down here, I know this one is going to be kind of difficult to talk about, but I have to ask the question because it comes up in the 5th house, and it's actually going to come up again. So, again, like I say to all my clients, everything, it always comes from a place of love with me. It's always a place of love. I never want to hurt with anything that I bring up. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering if this was the year that Logic was born. And the reason that I say that is because it's again, my intuition, the way this energy is. You've got the South Node, which talks about the past. You've got Saturn, which talks about like karma, right? Or things coming back. I say things coming back because Pluto's energy is not just death. It's about like Phoenix and rebirth energy, right? So if you have karma and you have like South Node energy and rebirth energy, and then you've got the vertex, which is, oh my God, all of a sudden, right? And I wonder if back over here, if because of Jupiter and And again, for all my astrology nerds, and I'm going to put a parental advisory on this video. So a lot of people, you'll see memes on Facebook where people talk about if you have Jupiter in the 8th house, or Jupiter and Scorpio in the 8th house, especially. This is going to talk about somebody who likes a lot of sex, or, you know, someone who is very skilled or very blessed in certain departments, right? And so having this in the 5th house, I wonder if the previous year there may have been some fun happening with a lot of healing, and then maybe this next year Logic was born, or this is the year that Logic was conceived and he was born a few months after this. And so again, you'll have to answer that question for me as we get on, because I want to, since we're talking about this, I want to go ahead and finish this particular conversation because we're talking about the 5th house right now. So this particular diagnosis was in 2019. Like I say, I wonder if this is the year that he was born or either conceived. And you're still under the same energy of healing that Chiron and the nodes stationing brought to you at the age of 18. And you'll be under that energy for a full 20 years until you get to the age of 38, or as early as 35, as late as 41. Okay. But when we look at the 5th house, when we get to, and this one for my astrology nerds is a secondary progressed chart. When we get to the 5th house, you happen to have Earth and Mars, or excuse me, when we get to this chart, you happen to have Earth and Mars in Gemini in the 5th house, okay? Remember I said that anytime you have a full moon, this is a full moon chart, okay? Earth is directly opposite of the sun at 5 degrees, 5 minutes. What did I say about the 5s coming up? Are the 5s being important to you? The number 2 being important to you as well. This is where Astraea stations retrograde at 22 degrees, 2 minutes. So you've got Earth at 5 degrees, 5 minutes in opposition to the sun. So manifestation in the 5th house, which is the house of children, okay? And Mars is also in conjunction at 5 degrees. Now, why is that important? Having Mars in the 5th house can talk about babies. Having babies, right? This doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a pregnancy, but it could be, especially if that's something that you're trying for, right? Something that you really want. It doesn't have to be a baby, or well, actually, let's go back to that. It could be adoption. And the reason that I say that it could be adoption is because there is an aspect up here where there may be somebody like in your social circle that may say, hey, you know, I need some help. Or maybe it's like a family member or something that might say, hey, I need some help, right? You just never know. This also could be like some sort of business direction. And so again, it's going to be something that's pivotal in your life, but it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be a huge disruption, although because you're going to be coming up on a Jupiter station, which will be a major turning point at the age of 40. Okay. I do think that when Astraea stations retrograde to balance some stuff of the past out, it's also going to cause you to have to balance some partnerships, so this energy here is happening in your house of others, right? This is you over here in the 1st house. This is them. And when I say them, this can be your husband, this can be business partners, this can be friends, this can be anybody else that you're dealing with. And I think there are going to be some people that you may have to leave behind, but you're not going to want to. It could be attached to this new baby. It could be attached to a new business direction, a new creative idea, where you may have to leave something behind. You just don't want to, but if you do it, it will benefit you. It could be attached to Zooming Moms. I say that because you have this T-square up here. If it's a new baby, you and your husband may have some argument about who's going to stay home and who's going to stay at work, right? Because Zooming Moms, I think at this point, is going to be a huge focus for you because of all this Capricorn energy. This is, remember where I said you want to create your own wealth and your own traditions and your own abundance, right? This is the focus for you by the time you get to age 38 or as early as 35, you know. And so Zooming moms could be doing very well by then, and you know, another baby or something could be on the plate and you're like, man, I don't know if I could do it. I might have to shelve something else, you know. A new job could be in the works. You may even go back to school, you know, or, well, I say you may go back to school because let's skip ahead to your Jupiter station. This is where Jupiter is going to station retrograde. So Jupiter is all about abundance, but Jupiter actually makes things really, really big. It expands, right? Jupiter can blow things out of proportion sometimes. And you just happen to be having this Jupiter station about 7 years before your nodal return. Now, remember what I said about the pre-shadow and post-shadow. So your Jupiter station could happen around the age of 40. Your nodal return could happen around the age of 47, or it could happen several years earlier, right? And this Jupiter station is going to be really important for you because I think you're going to meet somebody important, because it's happening in your 7th house and it's in conjunction to the vertex, which is something or someone, if it's in the house of others, who comes in to suddenly throw a monkey wrench in things. This doesn't always have to be marriage. A lot of astrologers will say the 7th house is the house of marriage, but it's not. It's anybody that you're in partnership with or that you are obligated to, that you have made a promise to or a contract with, right? So this could be a new business partner that comes in at the age of 40 who's like, hey, you know, I've got these plans, right? Whoever this person is, I think they're going to be fortunate for you. And, you know, like I say, remember, there's going to be pre-shadow, post-shadow. I do think it's going to come in terms of like creative pursuits. There's a chance that you could decide to go back to school, maybe even to like get your master's degree or doctorate or something. If you don't have, I don't know, I know you have degrees already, but, you know, if you want to go further, or even to teach, like you, and I say that because of the next, at 55, the next station that happens, right? So one other thing that I want to mention is that in your first, what I say here is you may meet someone around this time who will be a fortunate partner in business, but it could require you to leave someone behind, with Saturn conjunct the North Node in your first house. I say, I don't think you want to leave, but you must follow your own path. And the song that was playing when I was looking at this particular chart was Carrie Underwood, Change. Okay. So then we get to age 55 age 55. This is when Mercury stations retrograde. This is going to be another major turning point in your life. So Mercury is all about communication. And this is why I'm saying maybe you decide to teach, maybe you decide to get your doctorate so that you can become like a psychotherapist. Maybe you decide to go into psychotherapy because you just want to heal a bunch of stuff from your past. Or if you've ever thought about writing a book, this is going to be right around the time or somewhere around the pre-shadow or post-shadow when it happens, when you publish it. So, and again, the reason that I say that is because Mercury is the planet that is stationing. It is stationing in Capricorn in your 12th house. And this is a secondary progress chart. So by the time you get to age 55, and I did forget to explain in the beginning, for a secondary progress chart, how you find that is by looking at the day that you were born. And then you calculate one day and you assume that one day for every year of life, and you add that down to the day that you were born. So for you, at the age of 55 for secondary progress chart, you would have gone 55 days from October the 20th. So then the chart is cast 55 days later. How have the planets progressed, which means how have you matured in your life to this point? Now, for you, Mercury has progressed to the point where it has come into conjunction to that Capricorn stellium that I was talking about, which was the dreams and the traditions and the wealth and the abundance that you really want to create. So now that has progressed. It's no longer in your focus. It's gone into your 12th house, which is a little bit behind you. right? Because the first house is you, so the 12th house is going to be, you know, what's hidden from you, what you can't see. It's in the back of your head, right? So now that all of those dreams are behind you, what's next? How do you move forward? What do you want to do? And that's where Mercury stationing comes in. You've got all of these options. You can decide now, do you want it to be a book? Use this astrology to your benefit and make it a book. Do you want to be a psychotherapist, like have your doctorate and actually see patients? Use all of this astrology that I've just taught you in this video to create that and achieve that. Do you want to teach? Do it. Go back to school, you know, use all of this stuff to your benefit. And by the way, and this is the last chart that we're going to look at. This was page 11. But by the way, because of, you know, our association with Zooming Moms, the whole Mama Mates, you know, me being a member now and everything, anytime you have a question about your chart, all you got to do is ask me. I mean, like if there's something that you are planning, and, you know, let's look at your chart. This is one of the things that I'm trying to teach people is that, you know, you don't have to just wing it. You don't have to just go by somebody else's schedule. You can schedule this stuff on your own. This is what astrology is about, knowing what the possible energies are that are coming in and using them to your benefit. So at this point, I am going to open the floor to you. I am going to let you either confirm, ask questions, whatever it is that you want. I'm going to stop share screen and we'll see if we need to do it later or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, keep the screen going. Let's just go back and let's talk about it.
If you really want to, we will. Which one do you want to go back to?
Yeah, let's do that. This is real life. Let's see what I understand from what you're saying and confirm it and get a better understanding of my story. That's what I'm saying. I want to tell my story. I want to understand my story, and hopefully that 55 will continue. Got me a little concerned that you didn't do the other 2 dates. I'm like, am I going to die before 56?
No. No,
that's my biggest concern.
It was just a lot of work. I was like, man, this video is going to be like 45 minutes already. I wonder if anybody's going to watch it.
Okay. So that just lets me know, though, that it wasn't that you didn't see anything. It was just that it was long. Okay.
Yeah. No, I see all good stuff, actually.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear, because I don't. So, I mean, let's see. Let's go back to the beginning. You talked about the 5 months. So what I can say about that is that my mother told me that she moved into her own apartment in February. So I was born in October. By February, March, my brother and I and her, we were moving into a new apartment. So that's the move that you could have seen. And at that time, she wasn't like in a full-term relationship with my father anymore. My mother was living in a room with her sister, actually, and her son. So it was 2 adults and 3 children in one room for a little while. And then she finally got her own apartment. And it's crazy that you mentioned this, because I literally just had this conversation with my mother and my aunt last night. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to overcome, is that a lot of the times when I experience something, it comes up in a conversation or something with others. And then I start thinking that I always end up saying I was just talking about this, but I really was like just talking about it. So I'm like, at times I don't say it anymore, because I don't want people to think like, you always say you just said this, or you just saw this, or you just talked about this. But I kid you not, last night I was just having this conversation, and my aunt and my mother were saying like, yeah, we were all in a room together with the 3 kids and the 2 of us. And then she got her own apartment, and they went to look at the apartment, and her other siblings, they thought the apartment was raggedy, but she was like, no, this is gonna be Shanae's room, this is gonna be her brother's room, and this is my room, and we're gonna put this. She was okay with the place because she was getting her own place and being independent. So that's what happened in those first 5 months, that I can confirm that she did end up moving about 5 months later after having me into her own place.
Awesome. Okay, so what about well, we can skip asthma because we already know that one, right? Do you want to go
so with the asthma, from my understanding, I had asthma since like a child, like 1 year old, and I kept going into the hospital. I want to grab this book if you don't mind, because it's my baby book. It's not exactly right there. I thought it was right there, but
That's
the
okay.
book, because you was talking about the dates and you said 10 years old. So I was wondering if when I turned 10, was that one of my dramatic asthma attacks? Because sometimes when I have asthma attacks, I will end up in the hospital for a couple of days, and my mother actually kept the balloons and cards that people would send to me. So I'll look at it and confirm that later, but I was always in and out the hospital because of my asthma.
And you know what? That makes perfect sense too with Pluto right here in the first house, because like I say, or like you say, you can die if you don't get treatment for asthma, because it really can be that dangerous. So yeah. I'm not surprised by that at all with Pluto there.
Yeah, my mother always tells this story about how I had this bad asthma attack, and my paternal grandmother, my father's mother, stood me up against a tree or something, and it like helped before the ambulance could even get there to rush me to the hospital.
Oh, wow. Okay, what about somewhere around age 18?
Okay, so with this one, I did go to college. I was 18 when I went to college. I turned 19. I didn't join a sorority at that time, but I was a part of a social club, an all-women social club, where I ended up becoming the president. I was a member, then I was a vice president, and then I ended up becoming the president of it.
I love it.
So all throughout college, it was a shift for me with identity. Usually you go through your identity crisis in middle school, but it was a new environment for me. I went to predominantly white school. I went to predominantly Black high school, but they had a program for international Asian students. So I did have that interaction. And then there were other race inside the school, but it was predominantly Black. It was hood, it was Black. That's where I came from. And then I went to a predominantly white college, and it was racism on there. So I experienced that. And so I had to balance the two. Like, what do I want to be, this hood person, or do I want to be this just educated person, but then also be Black, in general? So yeah.
Wow. But you know what? And people need to understand too how difficult that is, right? I mean, and I think that's part of why you've started this Zooming Moms, right?
Right. Because there's so many ways of living in life, right? And then, so what I learned in college is this thing called code switch. So it seemed like you have to code switch in so many different environments that at some point it drains you. And it's like, you can't please anybody. Okay, this person wants me to be black tie, like professional, no color hair and big earrings and things like that. But then you have this person over here is like, be you, be yourself, be big, wild and everything. And you're just you're trying to balance it out and it's not working. So with me, it's like Zooming Moms is just be you no matter what. Like, we can't please everybody. No, right, there's no right way. Like, you have conservative people and you have liberal people. Like, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And life is so short. Like, that's what I'm saying. For me, I feel like I'm on this timeline and every day is just getting shorter and shorter. Like, my timeline of life is short. So I feel like you should take who you are and value that more than what other people are saying it should be. What society says shouldn't be your priority of pleasing people. Who you want to be should be your priority of pleasing you. So yeah, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. And I agree wholeheartedly. So did you want to talk about any of the others, or? I see that you have company.
Company? What do you mean? Which
Oh,
one?
I thought somebody was talking to you.
No, like I'm trying to figure out. I think something on my wall just fell. That's what that was.
Did you notice the ages? Let's go back to the ages. That was one thing that I wanted to point out because of the numbers. I was I was chuckling at that. So if you notice up here, the age 55, 5, and then you have the age 40, 18, 88, 38. So I'm like, you've got those 8s there and the 5s, which I just thought was hilarious because it came through in the pre-read. I don't
Yeah, all those 8s. So yeah, I thought 8 was my favorite number, but um, I don't really go to the number 8 anymore, but it keeps coming up.
It keeps coming up for you. How was it? Just a favorite number that you had as a kid or something?
It was a favorite number I had as a kid, but over time, I really honestly think it just had a lot to do from where I come from too, that it became an appealing number that I like because I used to see it a lot. But so it was always one of those, 8's my favorite number. And then after a while, I'm like, I think I'm just saying 8's my favorite number because of me keep seeing it where I'm from, things like that. So I don't really claim it anymore as my favorite number, but I used to always like the number 8. I like even numbers, and I just like that it was a circle, and when you turn it, it's an infinity sign. So I could be playing myself a little bit because of everything else that I just don't want to associate with it anymore, but I did like 8 because infinity sign.
Yeah, it's part of your shadow now. It's one of those things that you're embarrassed to admit it, but I think 8, it really is your number, or at least one of them. And did you know that 8 is a number of abundance? And you're right, it is the infinity symbol.
Yeah, see, no, I just saw it myself, like, and I thought the infinity sign, it just means forever. Like, I want things to last for a while, and it just don't seems to happen for me though, but that's still my goal.
Yeah, it is the infinity symbol, and it represents abundance. It represents like, why can't I think of anything right now? Oh my God, I just had it in the back of my head and now it just totally went out. Abundance and then changes would be what the 5s represent. Okay, so was there any others that that we wanted to look at real quick? I know you said you had some questions, and I think it's probably about the ones that are coming up, right?
Well, I know you have mentioned the pregnancy, so I wanted to clarify that, because when you're talking about the scleroderma and if I was pregnant with logic or if I conceived logic at that time, I had actually conceived my twins and lost my twins at that time. So logic didn't come into the year after, but that possibility of a diet and change and having a conversation with the doctor and not feeling so certain, that was because of the twins. So I went on a trip in July. She told me to go ahead to NOLA, and when I come back, we'll talk about my prognosis, the treatment. So I went to NOLA for Essence Festival. When I came back, that's when she said, yes, you definitely have scleroderma. We have to go through with the treatment. If you want, you want to live. And I told her I wanted to live. So she prescribed me CellCept, which is the best medication for this condition. However, it has birth defects. So if I wanted to get pregnant, I couldn't. And so she knew I was already seeing a fertility doctor for my husband and I to try to do IVF, because I had already got notice that I was going through early menopause. So I was losing eggs faster than the average 27-year-old. So in order for me to try to get pregnant, it was best to do it with IVF rather than naturally. But somewhere between June, I believe it was June, June, I ended up conceiving my twins. So she prescribed me that medication and told me don't take it. Once she had got my urine test back, she said that I was pregnant, so I couldn't take the medication. So I didn't get on the medication, but I was also seeing a nutritionist. And so the nutritionist was helping me to eat healthier. But again, it was just so much that I was trying to balance with the scleroderma, multiple sclerosis, vitiligo, and everything else, that I was never consistent with anything. But I was always consistent with going to the doctors to make a plan.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the babies. I really am. I understand that one from a personal perspective, not as a mother, as a grandmother, but you know, I often say that you know, the pain that I have as a grandmother, I can't imagine what my daughter went through. I can't imagine the pain, you know, that would bring as a mother. So I am very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I hope that, you know, somewhere around age 38, when we get to that one, that maybe there will be that new baby that comes in. Is that something that you're wanting to pursue? Is that something?
Yeah, so we're in the process now. I'm talking to the fertility doctor and we're going through some testing again because like I said, I'm on a timeline. Like I don't you're saying 38, that'd be a blessing, but like I said, my eggs are dying out faster. So I don't even know if I have enough mature eggs by the age 38, but because of that timeline, we are working with the fertility doctor again to see if we can conceive naturally or go through the IVF process. Also, like Logic will be 2 this year. So to me, I thought that was a good separation in age with children. And because of my health issues, I don't want to try to wait longer and can't, or you know, just life just ends for me before I can do it. So I'd rather try now, and then with him being young, I want to do it because I commend those who have a kid and then don't have another one until 10 years later, but it's a lot of work. So I'd rather do it while they're both around the same age than to wait. And to me, it's like starting over again, like getting up every 3 hours to feed the baby, and you know, rocking the baby all the time, blending up food again, because I didn't give them, I never gave Logic baby food out the store. I always gave him my own organic food that I made for him. So that's time consuming, changing diapers and everything. It's just a lot. So the plan is to try now, especially with my health. So that's what we're in the process of now. But I did say, like, if it doesn't happen, then I would adopt. I'm a social worker. I've been in the foster care, working in the foster care system. I know there's a need for adoption, so I would want to save a life. I've said that before I was even a social worker, that I would save a life or two if I could.
And I didn't know that IVF was one of the things that you were looking at. And when I said that there was an aspect up here that made me think there might be someone in your social circle that might have a baby that like when I was talking about adoption, I'm wondering now if that aspect is more along the lines of a surrogate.
Mm.
Is that something that you may have thought about or looked into as well?
You know what? I used to joke about it. I could be somebody's surrogate, or I could have a surrogate for myself. But after losing 2 children and then having another one and having premature labor and all of that, I don't think I would. I would just adopt. I don't think I would. Only because of like the experience of knowing like the attachment and carrying a child and stuff. But you never know. You never know. I might change my mind because it's my biological child. Somebody else is just carrying it. But right now, my decision for that has changed. I don't see myself going for that option first.
Yeah. Oh, well, I hope it works out. Whatever option that you choose, I hope that, you know, it is very fertile and very abundant for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let's see, there was one other I thought. Was there any other questions that you had?
No.
Okay. Okay, well then, I think at this point that we're going to go ahead and stop the video, and I'm going to say thank you for letting me film this and letting me do this and sharing with everybody. And as soon as I get it all edited and everything, I'll send you your copy so that you'll have it to go back and watch, because I know I talked really fast through a lot of it. But yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate this. Like I said, I want to tell my story so others can tell their story, and then we make her story. So my story is your story. Her story is your story, you know? So this was a good
Absolutely.
start.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have a good rest of your weekend and thank you. I'll
All
see you
right, you
later.
too.